Kate. Kate is my editor at Hodder and Stoughton, without whom none of this would have been remotely possible. I have a huge number of thank yous to say over this book. It's a story about a mother and daughter. It's a story about two relationships that go in counterpoint, a bit like an operatic quartet. It's a story about music and healing, about England and the fractured society that we live in these days, which isn't nearly as fractured as Bosnia, where everybody ends up a bit later in the book, but I won't tell you too much about what that was. It's rather different from my other books. It's still very much a family story, but it's not a family in the conventional sense. It's a very 21st century kind of family that, in a way, just isn't really a family at all. The title, Songs of Triumphant Love, actually is a tribute to my all-time most beloved author, who was Ivan Turgenev, who I discovered at the age of 14 when my mother judiciously started feeding me some wonderful books like First Love and Virgin Soil, those extraordinary things that just take you back into 19th century Russia. He wrote a story called The Song of Triumphant Love, which today has been almost forgotten, but for the fact that it inspired the chanson poème for violin and orchestra, which is a hugely popular violin concerto on a smaller scale. And it has, you can feel, listening to that piece of music, that it has a narrative, but you wouldn't necessarily guess what that narrative is. I was introduced to this whole idea by my friend Philippe Graffin, who I work with a great deal, and who sadly couldn't be with us this evening because he has got a concert, as musicians tend to. But I owe him a huge debt of thanks for pointing me in this direction. The situations in the book are in part suggested by Turgenev's relationship with Pauline Viardot, the opera singer. My central couple in the book are a singer and a writer who are in a similarly strange and imbalanced relationship. The next person I want to thank, who also can't be here because she has to sing, is the soprano Marie McLaughlin, who I met at Glyndebourne last summer, and who I've been a tremendous fan of for as long as she's been singing the leading roles and as long as I've been attending the opera. She's been a real mentor and guide to me in this book. She has introduced me to some extraordinary people who have introduced me to more extraordinary people, to whom I've talked about all sorts of subjects, ranging from problems in the vocal cords to military practices in Afghanistan and such like. It's an extraordinary spectrum of stuff. I'm also very grateful to John and Patrick Saunders, who are two members of a distinguished military family whose insights into the functioning of the army, which obviously is not my obvious bit of know-how, their input has totally changed the direction of this entire book, and I'm hugely grateful to them. Two more singers I have to credit are Nina Stemmer and Katerina Karneus, who both talked to me about Wagner. Now, this book would be nowhere without Wagner, as you will see when you read it. I owe a huge debt of thanks to my fantastic agent, Sarah Menguch, whose tireless efforts and fantastic moral support when I turn into one of those whinging authors who just whinges down the phone for hours.
Never.
Oh yeah? Well, maybe I'm not as bad as the others, but we're terrible whingers, us writers. I would be nowhere without Sarah, and I never forget this. And of course, Kate, Marissa, everyone from Hodder and Stoughton, thank you so much for making this possible and for putting so much attention into, especially the cover design, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. Who have I forgotten? I have so many people to thank, it doesn't really bear thinking about, but there's a full list of credits. I hope a full list of credits in the credits section. There are copies for sale at the front of the shop. I've got a pen if anyone wants me to sign one for them. And all I can say is I just hope that you enjoy reading this book as much as I've enjoyed writing it, which is a lot. Thank you.